so the first problem that I'm going to work on the review is question A. I'm not going to work every single question from the review just for time's sake, but I'm going to try and get to every type of problem on the review, just so that you're able to kind of get the gist of rate of change, initial value, looking at graphs, and comparing rate of change and initial values together. So this first question, if I want you to find the rate of change from a table, if the table is linear, which it should be because those are the only tables that we've looked at so far, then any 2 points in the table can give me the same rate of change. So the first and second points in the table will give me the exact same rate of change as the last two problems, last 2 points in the table. So it doesn't matter. And remember that rate of change can be found by the change in y values, so that's the difference. So subtracting the y values and subtracting the x values. The change in y values divided by the change in x values. So in order to find the change, I have to pick 2 points. So I'm going to pick 411 and 619. So from 11 to 19, how do I get from 11 to 19? Well, that's a difference of positive 8, okay, because I'm increasing by 8. I'm adding 8. Then from 4 to 6, I am adding 2. So I can take my rate of change. In order to find my rate of change, I find my change in y values, which is 8, and my change in x values, which is 2. And 8 divided by 2 is 4. So my rate of change for table A is 4. Okay, this is plenty of work. This is exactly what I want to see on your test to get the full 5 points if you choose to do a problem like this on your test. Then the next problem, problem B, please identify the initial value from the following table. Okay, remember the initial value, all the words that we talked about for initial value. Initial value is the starting place, or the starting point. The original, that's the word I like the most for initial value. Okay, another word on a graph would be our y-intercept. But I want you to be very careful when you say the starting point, because it's not the first point in the table, okay? It's the 0 value in the table. So it's not the first thing that you see in the table. It's when x is equal to 0. When x is equal to 0, our y value is 5, so that is our initial value. Okay, remember, because our table can decrease any way to the left. It could decrease all the way to negative 1,000 as an x value, and then we could find the output for that x value. Or it could increase all the way to the right with y values or x values of 3, 4, all the way up to 100. Okay, so it's not necessarily, negative 2 is not our starting place, because negative 2 is just a value in our table. But 0 is truly our starting place, because 0 is where you start anything. You don't start with your bank account having a certain amount of money in it. You start with 0 money. Okay, so our initial value in this problem is 5. All right, the last one I'm going to work on page 1 is letter D with the pattern. So please identify the initial value from the following pattern. So remember, our starting place, our original, would not be figure 1, but it would be figure 0. Okay, so we are going to work forward to figure out our pattern moving this way. Okay, so from figure 1, which has 1 square, to figure 2, which has 3 squares, I need to add 2 squares. Then to get from figure 2 to figure 3 has 5 squares. I'm also adding 2. And then from figure 3 to figure 4, from 5 to 7 squares, I'm also adding another 2. So any way that I'm moving in this direction forward, I'm adding 2 squares. So that means when I go over from figure 1 to figure 0, I'm going to be moving backwards. So that means I'm going to be moving the opposite direction. And the opposite of positive 2 of adding 2 is subtracting 2. Okay? So that means my initial value will be the 1 square from figure 1 minus 2 squares is equal to negative 1 squared in figure 0. Okay, so that means my initial value for this pattern is negative 1.